Hey everybody, this is a video for estimating the line of best fit. If you need these Cornell Notes Avid paper for your notes, you can get it from my website and just open it in Notability. I'm trying to up my game a little bit. So here's estimating line of best fit. The essential question for this is, how can I use a line to estimate the trend in a set of data? Okay, so we're going to start out with some vocabulary. So I'm going to say, what are the important terms? First, I'm going to note scatter plot. And it's going to be a graph of two variable data that may or may not have a trend, which leads us to the second thing here, which is going to be a trend. A trend is a pattern in data that allows for predictions. And so a scatter plot, I'm going to branch off here and make an example. A scatter plot's going to be some drawing in data. It may look kind of like that. It's just two variables, which means I have an x and a y axis. And so the data gets plotted, and the idea of a trend is that you can tell that this data is sort of moving in that direction. And so you can see that there's a trend because there is a pattern of increase. You can kind of see it goes up and to the right. Because there's this pattern, we want to be able to estimate that pattern. And so that's going to lead us to the third term here. I'm going to put line of best fit. I'm going to call it a line that tries to match the trend of a scatter plot, so we can make predictions. So that's basically what's going on. We can kind of look at some examples here, but the basic idea is that on this set of problems, you're going to be given, I'll just jump to an extra page here to try to show you some examples. You don't have to write this part down. If I'm looking at a data set, several possibilities are available. So I might see, I'm going to switch to a larger thing here. I might see a data set where, like before, I can see a really clear trend. And if there's a really clear trend, I want to do something to try to estimate that trend. And there's a couple things I can think about. When I look at that trend, I can tell that it's kind of really generally, I can tell that it's kind of going that way. But I want to be more precise. And so when I'm looking at this data, I can kind of start to get the sense that, well, if I'm looking at the scope of the data, it seems to be going at roughly that kind of angle or slope. But my line shouldn't be way over here. It should be somewhere sort of in the middle of the data. And so once I start putting it there, it seems like it's kind of cutting the data in half, but it's also matching the slope of the data. And so we can look at a couple of examples on Khan Academy here. So the way that this module works is that you have these 2 points on the line that you are allowed to toggle and move around. The first question is actually over here on the right, and it says, move the line in the graph to fit the data if appropriate. A line fits the data well, no line fits the data well. So it's possible that no real trend or pattern exists for this data, but looking at this data, I can see that it kind of trends downwards and to the right. And so I need to adjust this line, drag these dots so that my points make the line match the slope of the trend, which is down and to the right, and the line needs to be in the middle of the data. And once I've got that, it should be okay. The module is pretty forgiving, and most of the things that you see will have a trend. But let's look back at what something that doesn't have a trend might look like. So if I look at a set of data, this is an example in which no trend is really identifiable. And the reason no trend is really identifiable, as it shows up here, sorry it took so long, is that I can't really tell if this data is moving upwards or if it's moving downwards or if it's moving straight across. And because I can't tell that, I would say that no line really fits this data well. That's one example where no line would fit the data well. The second kind is a kind in which there will be a pattern, but that pattern will not be one that a line will fit. And so here I can see that there is a pattern that would allow me to make predictions. There's a trend, but it turns out that that trend is a curve, and so there's no line that I could really fit to this that would match it well. And so in that case, again, there's no line that fits the data well. So I'm going to jump back up into Notes here and come down. I'm going to make the next question, whoops, I should change the thickness of my pencil here. How do I fit a line to data? We mentioned 2 things. For a set of data, the line must match 1, the slope or direction of the data, and 2, the position of the data. And so if it's matching both of those things, it should sit in the middle of the data in the way that this line does here. So it matches the trend of the data or the direction of the data because it's moving up and to the right at the right angle. But it's also in the data. It's in the right position because it's touching some of the dots, and some of the dots are above the line, and some of the dots are below the line, the points, excuse me. One more question to consider. How can I tell if a line won't fit the data? So the first thing I can think about is, 1, no clear trend is apparent. And that's when everything is really scattered out. The other time that that might be the case is there is a trend, but it is non-linear. With that, I'll leave you guys to try it out. Make sure that you take a moment or two to complete the summary. If you need more information about how to go about that, just ask me for a little bit of help. If you have any trouble with the exercise, please make sure that you have these notes to be able to show me before you ask for my assistance.